Good morning, everyone. Yeah, very good morning. Shall we start the session? Yeah, in the last class, we have discussed or we have done with the five topics of the function that is called by reference. What is the function, how it is used, function definition, and so on. Now, the next part is inline messages or inline function. That is the today's topic. So, one of the main objective of using a function in a program is to save some time, is to save some energy or the memory space, and which become appreciable when the function is likely to be called many times. However, every time a function will be called, it takes a lot of extra time in executing a series of infrastructure or instructions for tasks such as jumping to a statement, saving registers, pushing arguments into the stack, and returning to the calling function. And when a function is small, a substantial percentage of execution time may be spent in such overheads. And one solution to this problem is to use more and more overheads, more and more macro definitions, popularly known as a macro. They are popularly used or used in a C always. And the major drawback with the macros is that they are not really functions, and therefore the usual error which arrives does not occur during the compilation. So C++ have a or has a different solution to this problem, and to eliminate the cost of calls to small functions, C++ proposes a new feature known as the inline function. So this is the new feature that provides the facility, how it is used, how it is done, and what are the new features that will be available to make the inline function. And C++ have a different solution to this problem also. So to eliminate the cost of calls to the small functions, C++ provided a new feature that is a inline function. So it means instead of giving the functions beyond the int main, that is a small functions, we can give the function into the int main only. That becomes an inline function. Inline means in between the int main. So if you see that if there are if there are two functions that is of the two line each, so why we are going to waste the time for calling the function, declaring the prototype? Instead of using, we are only give the declaration in the int main only. Yeah, it is a function that is expanded in the line when it is invoked, when it is called. That is, the compiler replaces the function call with the corresponding function code, something that is similar to the macro definition. And the inline functions are defined as follows. So there is the inline function header, function body. Yeah, inline is a keyword, and the function header means a function name. Then function body means the loop body. That means a statement, whatever the statement we are going to give in the inline functions. Example: inline double Q double A. That means inline is a keyword, double is the return type, cube is the name of the function, and double A. That means the argument is the A that is of the double that returns A into A into A. So above inline function can be invoked by the statements like C equals to Q 3.0, D equals to Q 2.5 plus 1.5. On the execution of these statements, the values of C and D will be 27 and the 64. And if the arguments are the expressions such as the 2.5 and the 1.5, so the function passes the value of expressions in this case. This makes the inline feature far superior to the macros, far better than the macros. And it is very easy to make the function inline because only the keyword inline will be added to make the inline function. And all the inline functions must be defined before they are called. Now we should focus on these functions. Now let's see what are the various importance of inline functions, why it is very useful in the C++, not in the C language. So we should exercise the care before making a function online, but the speed benefit that will make the function diminize, that will make the function used of inline as the function grows in a size. And at some point, the overhead of the function call becomes small compared to the execution of the function And the benefits will be given with the online that makes the effort, that makes the usage of these functions. And in such cases, the use of normal functions will be more meaningful, and usually the functions are made inline because when they are enough to be defined in one or two lines. That is, if there are two lines, if there are one line, that will be enough in these two lines. The example is inline double cube double A, return A into A into A. And remember that the inline keywords merely sends a request, not a command to the compiler, and compiler may ignore this request if the function definition is too long or too complicated and compile the function as a normal function. And the compiler may ignore this request if the function definition is too long or too complicated and compile the function as a normal function. So some of the situations where the inline expressions may not work are for function returning the values if a loop, switch or go to exist, and for a function not returning any value if a return statement exists, if a function contains the static variable, if inline functions are recursive. These contains a static variable, these contain the static functions if they are recursive. Now, inline expansion makes the program run faster because the overhead of the function code and the return is eliminated. However, it makes the program to take up the more memory because the statement that defines the inline functions are reproduced at each point where the function is called. So a trade-off becomes necessary, becomes useful. This illustrates the use of the inline function. The hash include IOStream using a namespace std, inline float mul, float x, float y, return x into y. Again, there is the inline double divide, div, double p, double q, return p by q. Because this is the one line function, so instead of giving over here, if we are giving beyond the int main, that is wastage of the, we can say, the wastage of the memory, wastage of the time, and makes the program more complex. Instead of this, we are giving inline float mul, float x and y, return x into y. In the same way, inline double div, double p, double q. Return is also double and the argument is also double. Then int main float a equals to 12.345, float b equals to 9.82, mul ab, divide ab. So output of the program would be 121.228 and 1.25713. Because this divides the variable to 12.34 is multiplied by the 9.82, and in the divide it is divided by this. So 12.345 is divided by 9.8. So C++ allows us to call a function without specifying all its arguments. In such cases, the function assigned a default value to the parameter which does not have a matching arguments in the function code. And default values are specified when a function is declared, and the compiler looks at the prototype to see how many arguments a function uses and how many arguments it will be take, and to alert the program, that is how it will be possible, how it will be defined, to make the program to illustrate the program how it will be done. This is an example of the prototype, that is a function declaration with the default types. So float amount, float principal, int period, float rate equals to 0.50. The default value is specified in a manner synthetically that is similar to the variable initialization. And prototype also declares a default value of the 0.15 to the argument type. because it is given by default. And the subsequent function called like value equals to amount 5000 and the 7. That means principal is 5000, period is 7, and the rate is 0.15. That is by default. But if we give 5005 and the 12.15, so it will take the 12.15, it will override the 0.15. And the default argument is checked for the type at the time of declaration and evaluated at the time of code. One important point over here is to make the trailing arguments that can have a default values and therefore must add the defaults from the right to the left. So we cannot provide a default value to the particular arguments in the middle of an argument list. Some example of the function declaration with the default values that are given over here is int mul, int j equals to 5, k equals to 10. Int I equals to 5, int j 0, j 10. Next is legal. We declare declare the data type as int, then I equals to 2, j equals to 5, and k equals to 10. Default arguments are very useful in the situations where the some arguments always have a same value, same type. For example, bank interest may remain the same for all the customer for a particular period of the interest. That means default values are remains the same for a particular period, and the function will be called. Functions will be declared that are more frequently being used with the common applications. And using a default arguments, a programmer can use only those arguments that are meaningful to a particular condition, particular situation. So we illustrate the use of the default arguments. IOStream, namespace, int main, float amount, float value, as it is given. Print line amount equals to this one. So use the default values for the argument because print line is given and it is given with the asterisk and the length is 440. Yeah. Okay. You want to read this program first of all? Okay. All right. So the next program or this program says about the int main, that is a float amount. So there is a one variable declaration amount, then float value, then this float value is an inline function. This is a function declaration prototype, that is a float p int n, float r equals to 0.15. Then void print a line, then char ch is asterisk, then len is 40. This is again the prototype. Then void print line char ch again int len 40. Then print line function will be used as a default arguments. Amount equals to value 5000.005. So this will be given as a print line function. Then amount is again given as a value, that is 5000 and the 5 because 5000 is given in the float. So this is the 5000.00 and is given as a 5. Then cout slash n final value is amount. Then print line equals to uses the default value for the second argument. Then return 0. So print line is equals to, one is a normal, one is a equals to, in equals to. It is used as a instead of asterisk, it is used as a equals to. Again, the len function or len variable is again the same. Float value, float p, int n, int float r, int year equals to 1, float sum equals to p. Now, what is the condition? Year is greater than less than equals to n. That means 1 is less than equals to n. In this case, it is given as a 5. So sum is sum into 1 plus r, year equals to year plus 1. That means year is incremented by the 1 and the return value is again the sum. Then for the print line, char ch int line, the for loop that starts with the 1 goes till len I plus plus, printf percentage c ch, then printf slash n. The output will be given as a final value is 10056.8. Now, advantages of providing the default arguments are we can use the default argument to add the new parameters to the existing functions, and default arguments can be used to combine similar functions into one. similar procedures into one. So they are providing the default function, they are providing the default arguments. Then const argument, that is again the given with the argument to a function that can be declared as a const. This is the int strlen constant char pointer p. Int length const string pointer s or ampersand s. So this qualifier const tells the compiler that the function should not modify the argument it will give or generates an error when this condition is violated. This type of declaration is significant only when we pass the arguments by the reference or pointers. Next topic is function overloading. But before going to this topic, or this is a important topic, I advise you that please go through these 8 topics. If there's any confusion, then please ask the doubts from me, because after this is a, we can say, the full-fledged topic. Okay, just read for 5 minutes. Now, any doubts, anyone till now? Yes, Joseph. Inline is a keyword. Keyword in the sense we have to use, we have to define the, or we have to, we can say, the write the inline when we use the inline function. It's mandatory. Yes, it is mandatory to give the inline as compared to the function overloading. Default arguments, yes, Larry, default arguments are used. That means if instead of giving any argument, instead of giving the variables, we are giving the default argument, so that in case the arguments are missing, in case the variables are missing, so we have to use the default arguments, or the compiler will automatically use the default arguments. Yes. Now next is the function overloading. Let's start with the next topic. So overloading means use of the same things for different purposes. So C++ also permits the overloading of the function. That means we can use the same function yes, we can use the same function name to create the function that performs a variety of different tasks. This is also known as a function polymorphism in the OOPS. So using the concept of function overloading, we can design a family of functions with one function name but with different argument list. And the function would perform the different operations that depending on the argument list in the function code. And the correct function is to be invoked is determined by checking the number and the type of the argument, but not the function type. For example, when we use the overloaded add function that handles the different types of data as shown below. So int add, int a, comma int b, int add, int a, b, c. That is the prototype 2. Double add, double x, and the double y. Again, there is a double add, int p and the q. Then double add, double p and the int q. So there are 4 parts. There are 5 prototypes that will be declared. So in the first case, it will be used as a add. Then next case, again, it is used as a add function. Then double add, double add, double add. So there are 5 prototypes that will be declared for this one. In the same way, function calls cout add 510. Yeah, it is given as an int value. Then cout add 1510.0. That means the float value. 12.5. Yeah, second part takes the prototype 4 because the 4 has a double. Then 12.5, 7.5. That means both are the double, so it will use the 3. Then the 3 values 5, 10, 15, and both are integers. So take the second. Then double and the int. That means point and the integer. So that will take the last one, 5th arguments. So this will matches. Yeah, main thing for understanding is that the name is same, add name is same, but the arguments are different. That means internal parts are different. So that is the main understanding part. Yeah, in the same way, function calling, the names are the same, but the arguments are different. That is known as the function overloading. And the function call must matches the prototype having the same name, number, and the type of the argument, and calls the appropriate function for the execution. A best match for must be unique. That must be related with the function call that makes the selection that makes the involvement with the following steps.